Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is Charles, aka the Plant Bender. And today's video is going to be a little bit different. I won't be showing any of my planty friends, but I will still be going over something plant related. And today I will be talking about every plant parent's worst nightmare, dreaded pests.
Wait, can you record me real quick?
Get somebody else to do it.
It's for
So I'll be going over some of my favorite things to use for pests. Maybe you can tell me below some things you've tried that have worked, especially some inexpensive pest control that you have used. My biggest thing with being a plant parent is what is budget friendly. How can I have a lot of plants, love on them, and treat pests and not break the bank? So let's get into today's video with some of my favorite pest control, things that I use and tips and tricks. Starting off with, I am a big pre-pest infestation person. I make sure to stop the pests before they get here. I've learned with, especially when you have a larger collection, it might be more annoying to, walk through and look at all your plants maybe once a week or so. It might seem really time consuming, but if you get to the point where you're in a serious infestation of any sort of pests, whether it's mealybugs, aphids, spider mites, thrips, that's going to take way more time and probably cost you a lot more money than if you, take a little bit of time, even if it's every day you spend 5 minutes and look at a section of plants that you have and go through them. That is what I do. And I have, fortunately, knock on wood, not had any serious pest outbreaks. I usually go about once a week and go through my whole collection, especially my plants that have bigger leaves, like my monsteras, anything really prone to pests, so alocasias. Some of my philodendrons like to get spider mites on them, the ones that have like the leaves that make like a perfect little triangle for them to make their little webbing in there. That is usually what I go around and check them first. If they're good, usually most of my other houseplants are fine. Like my pothos, I don't really deal with pests on I don't think I've ever had a pest issue with any pothos, any variety of pothos, except fungus gnats. So those I don't worry too much about. I just give them a quick glance, maybe rinse their leaves off so they don't look dusty or gross like that. But also, in addition to that, I am a huge proponent of hydrogen peroxide when you water. It's basically like steroids for your house plants. The only downside about hydrogen peroxide is that it only works while it's fizzing. So like when you first put it in the soil or you water with it in your water mixture, once the fizzing stops, it's essentially just water. It's not doing anything. I like it though when I know there's a plant that maybe, I use it a lot for my ZZ. I have a ZZ that is polluted with fungus gnats. It's bone dry. It probably gets watered once a month, if that, honestly. But no matter what, there's adult fungus gnats are thriving in it. I don't think it really has a larva issue, but I think the adults just love it. So I use the little yellow sticky traps on them that are ugly, but I use that and they are polluted daily. And there's no way, I don't really have that issue with any of my other plants besides this besides the ZZ. That's the only one. So I use hydrogen peroxide when I water that, and I use those little yellow sticky traps for him. My favorite thing to use though is mosquito bits. Now, I know they also sell these in like those little circles, I think, on Amazon. I got these ones just because they seemed easier to use, and I usually water things. Like I have some really small plants, and then I have some large plants. I don't want to use the same amount of pest control or pest control products on my small plants as I do my large plants. So I water my smaller plants with like less mosquito bits than I would like my larger plants, things like that. What mosquito bits do is they essentially get in the soil, and when the plant absorbs the water, goes into the plant. So when the fungus gnats, their larvae, many other different types of pests actually feed on the plant, they die that way. Now, when I use the mosquito bits, I like I said, I water my plants, like I use pitchers, like giant pitchers, and I have cheesecloth that I fill with mosquito bits depending on which plants I'm watering that day, the sizes of plants and stuff like that. And I let them sit in the cheesecloth in the water for probably about an hour and a half, until you can really tell that like the chemicals in the mosquito bits essentially have gotten into the water. You can tell like the water looks murky. Doesn't look like clean water anymore. It has like a little tannish color to it. That's what I use to water. That has been the biggest help for especially fungus gnats. Fungus gnats are the one pest that am constantly at war with.
I said, do you wanna fight me?
No matter if I let my plants dry out, regardless what I do, fungus gnats thrive in my environment. I have a pretty moist, wet, hate that word, apartment here in Pennsylvania, and so they live their best lives. They are throwing parties, they are inviting all their friends, like it's also negative degrees outside, so everything's trying to come inside, including the fungus gnats. So that is what I use for them. Now when it comes to spider mites, mealybugs, thrips, every other little thing you can think of, pre-preventative, probably my best thing. But I do live by a nice soap and water spray at least once a week on plants. I mean, you're not really gonna harm them. Most houseplants can withstand that. I wouldn't use it on your, your super valuable, rare, plants that are super sensitive. But for like your monsteras, my alocasias, like black velvet, silver dragon, all those, they do fine with a little light soap. And I use like a sock. So just clean them up. Make sure, that gives you a chance to really look at your plants. But also if you're constantly doing that, it doesn't create a suitable habitat for the pests to thrive in the first place. In addition, I do use a fungicide. I know a lot of plant parents are against using any sort of fungicide. They stick to your neem oils and things like that. I do try to do that. However, there are some plants that just pests love, and instead of losing that plant, I'd rather use a fungicide. I will insert here, I forget what it's called. It's like in a white bottle. That's kind of what I use. I don't use it all the time, but if there is an actual problem that I'm noticing, it's time to bust out the chemicals. I am not a plant parent who's against chemicals. I think sometimes it's worth it. I think sometimes it's good. I think sometimes it's needed, especially if you're someone who doesn't have the time or has a collection that you can't necessarily tend to every plant at least once a week. You can't check up on them. So you might miss 2 weeks looking at a plant, and you might have a mealybug infestation that's almost like you have to cut the plant down to maybe get it back. And I've just found that sometimes chemicals can be your friend. I don't use anything harsh, anything crazy. A lot of the chemicals I use are like organic, natural in a sense chemicals. I also use, which I don't know if it's good or not for your plants. I haven't really found a lot of stuff, but I use like a lot of lemon juice. So I'll use like soap and lemon juice. It might not do anything at all. It might just give like a little scent, but I don't know. But I notice a lot of the plants, when I use lemon juice in there with a little bit of a soap, on my hardier plants, I really don't deal with pests. Like I don't deal with anything. I don't know if it's maybe the lemon juice is bitter to them, that's the taste. I don't know what's going on with that, but that is just something that I use. And those are some of my favorite tips. You guys let me know below what you use, what are your favorite things to use. Also, some more pricier things that you guys might use, because I do have some plants that I feel like come springtime, I might have to, go love and war with them, and we might just fight. So I definitely would appreciate any tips below, and thank you for, listening to today's video. Have a good day.